Hi everyone, welcome back to chapter 6. This one's about reproduction and sexuality. So human reproduction and sexuality are basic for the survival of the human race. And art has aided and pictured human fertility, reproduction, and sexuality since the beginning of time, basically. So we did there was a lot of female fertility goddesses and gods in the earliest fertility artifacts from the Paleolithic and Neolithic periods. There were small sculptures of females depicted as fleshy, with swollen bellies, breasts, and thighs were accentuated. This one is 6000 BCE in Turkey, female fertility figure. The goddesses dominated ancient rituals for thousands of years before gods came to prominence. This small regal figure is enthroned and is attended by lions. She was found in a grain bin, suggesting her role in the success of her cultural's fecundity. This is the Venus of Willendorf, Austria. This is potentially the oldest artifact from 25,000 years ago. The promise of fertility. Art has functioned to ensure human reproduction, likely with sympathetic magic, invoked through the art object. The Venus of Willendorf, although sometimes labeled as the fertility goddess, this small sculpture was more likely a charm or a fetish. She may have been used during childbirth, to ward off death, to wish for good health, or for good fortune, but we just don't know. It does not realistically represent someone. It represents the physical essence of fertility, and she was likely a talisman for good fortune. So compare these two idols. The left is from the Cycladic Islands off mainland Greece. And it's like a stone figure, right? Real lanky and long. Nubile plank-like bodies. That could be a question on the quiz. Something about this. It's the Cycladic Islands idol versus the Venus of Willendorf. So obviously, though, look at the discrepancy in time. I mean, we're talking about like 20,000 years. That's wild. More than that, 22,000 years apart. The slender and delicate, this abstract nude seems to emphasize feminine youth. These plank-like figures were found in burials, and they may have been meant to give new life to the dead. These figures are sometimes called plank idols. In the 19th century, male fertility pieces were produced by oceanic cultures. The large penis, in comparison to the rest of the figure, emphasizes the virility of Tarongo. Yes, Tarongo and his 3 sons, Cook Islands, Polynesia, 18 to 1900s. Male sculptures were carved for religious rituals by the Taunga, a priest trained through an apprenticeship. The art object was meant to endure, passed from one generation to the next, a symbol of prestige and rank, exclusive to those of power and rank, and a source of sacred information. This is the figure of a deity, Austral Islands, 1820. Specific ancestor deities, known as the Tangaroa figures, represent a creator in the act of creating human beings. Lineage was important in oceanic cultures, and this god creator may have been connected to a family ancestor. Wow. Look at that. Initiation rites of Dionysus, Villa of Mysteries in Pompeii, Italy. That's a fresco. It's just on the wall. Wow. This fresco depicts a ritual of the mystery cult of Dionysus, associated with sexual intercourse and fertility. Nearly life-size figures, convincing volume, move in a shallow space on a trompe-l'oeil, or fool's the eye, ledge. The male love doll was used as medicine to control human behavior and health. The Potawatomi male figure was used as a charm to cast a spell on someone whose attentions were desired. A love doll, Crandon, Wisconsin, 1800 to 1860. Wood and fabric. The Bahmanian female figure made of wood and brass is associated with a female fertility cult. These figures were brought out in public to aid women who were having difficulties in conceiving and childbearing. Standing female figure, 1947, Paris. The Akuba, the Ashanti in Ghana, and fertility sculptures created solely for women having difficulty in conceiving and to ensure a healthy and beautiful baby. Beauty is reduced to uncomplicated forms. That's really interesting. We see female beauty reduced to uncomplicated forms with the head, neck, arms, torso, circular disc, and a series of cylinders. A round face with a small mouth, a high forehead, a long neck and torso, linear facial features, disc-like forms as necklaces, breasts and navel have minimal forms. Art depicting primordial human couples. Human couples have been depicted throughout the ages as the primordial or first couple, the mother and father of humankind, representing the marriage ritual within cultural contexts. And these depictions were rooted in creation narratives or myths. Masaccio, The Expulsion from Paradise, is a fresco in Florence, Italy, 1427. So Adam and Eve are found in the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim religions and told to be fruitful and multiply. They were then expelled from the Garden of Eden. In the expulsion, we see Eve's anguished cry, Adam's pain, and their shame and agony. There's the whole fresco. So compare Adam and Eve with the Dogon primordial couple. Much different, right? They're in like pain and they've been cast out on the left. And on the right, they're just like hanging, having a good time. In love. Happy. They're equally exalted. They represent their fertility. The male unites the figures by embracing the female. He symbolizes their sexual union by touching his penis. By wearing jewelry, they symbolize their sexual power, and their balanced design is a symbol for an ordered human culture. All right, yeah. Oh, Jan van Eyck, Wedding Portrait. This one I've studied so many times throughout ages in art history classes. The Wedding Portrait is Giovanni Arnolfini and his bride. It is more than a double portrait. It is a wedding certificate with obvious and hidden symbolism. So shown in the bedroom rather than church, suggesting the hope for many children. The woman holds her clothing as if pregnant. They have removed their shoes. They are on holy ground. And he raises his hand in a gesture of blessing. Surrounding the couple, there's one candle burning in the chandelier that represents divine presence. The frame of the mirror has medallions that depict the passion of Christ. On the chest and windowsill, oranges representing the conquest of death. The dog symbolizes fidelity. On the bedpost, finial, a statuette of St. Margaret, patron saint of childbirth. And Van Eyck depicts witnesses, including himself in the mirror, written above the mirror, Jan van Eyck was here. Wow. Yeah. Symbolism. So compare and contrast these two wedding portraits on the right, or wedding portrait on the left, and then Aztec marriage couple on the right. I mean, obviously different type of aesthetics, right? Different type of artwork, but still like almost meaning the same thing. Aztec marriage couple depicts a man and woman seated on a mat. The bride was powdered with yellow earth and adorned in red feathers. The formal vows took place in the groom's home, the marriage performed by tying together their wedding garments, or tying the knot. Art that's about lovemaking. So sexuality is a libidinal urge that is gratifying, positive, and energizing. The Lampinar lamp from Pompeii likely lighted a bedroom. It shows a couple in an intimate gaze while engaging in sexual intercourse. An inscription found in Pompeii on a wall from an ordinary house reads, Hic habit felicitas, or here lies happiness. Look at this is their lamp scene. I love it. It like reminds me of like the modern day like tacky like leg lamp like in Christmas Story. Moshe pottery is matter of fact the depictions of lovemaking, explicit and candid. Numerous sexual acts between a man and a woman appear. They have been designed as visual aids for sex education, illustrating human reproduction and perhaps birth control as well. This is in Peru. Kitagawa Utamaro, A Pair of Lovers. Japan, 1788, woodblock relief. Wow, that's really good. This work reflects the Ukiyo, or floating world theme. The floating world refers to the Buddhist concept of the transience of life. That might be a question. Non-samurai classes translated that concept into prizing life's fleeting moments of pleasure. In other words, eat, drink, and be merry. Shunga prints, spring pictures centered on female beauty, the theater, entertainment, and erotica. So left we have the Karenga School, Radha and Krishna in the Grove, 1780. It's gouache on paper. And then the right we have a relief carving from the Kandarya Mahadeva Temple in India. So erotic images in India appear as sculptures in Hindu temples and in miniature paintings. Radha, a shepherdess, and Krishna, an incarnation of the god Vishnu, are depicted in a highly idealized scene of lovemaking. Pleasure, affection, sweetness, and erotic energy were meant to be like the physical and spiritual unions humans could experience through lovemaking by a union with God. Radha and Krishna in the Grove were meant to be instructive, and the mythical sexual act was intended to be reincarnated regularly among living couples. There could be a question about this one as well. Many carvings on Hindu temples are erotic. This carving shows intertwined, voluptuous bodies. The Hindu religion celebrates sexual love. Intercourse and self-pleasuring reflect the divine union with the unbounded. Carnal bliss is a virtue and path that leads to redemption. Art about sexuality in Western culture. So sexuality is complicated in modern Western art because there are power relationships between men and women. Homosexuality and heterosexuality are also part of political debates. Sexuality is used to sell products, and abstract works on sexuality capture the energy but leave other specifics undefined. This is Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres, Grand Odalisque, France, 1814. I think there's something about Ingres, about this piece, in your quiz. The woman in this painting by Ingres is an odalisque, a member of a Turkish harem. 19th century female nudes in Europe and the US were made for 19th century men. Men were the privileged audience for such pictures, as the viewer's gaze completes the sexual exchange implied in the painting. It is significant that there's only a woman in this scene. Without a lover, the odalisque is sexually available for the viewer, who gazes upon her and consumes. The viewer took the place of the imagined Turkish sultan, who had many women at his disposal. So compare the two paintings. This is Manet, Edward Manet's Olympia, 1863. What's the difference? There's the one at the top is definitely more sultry, right? She's like, hello, come over here. And the one at the bottom, Olympia, she's kind of a little bit modest. She's got her legs crossed. Manet's Olympia scandalized the public because her sexuality and nudity were contemporary and Western. Olympia was recognizable as a famous Parisian courtesan. I think that's on the quiz. So she was a Parisian courtesan? It is similar to a famous Italian Renaissance painting of Venus. Oh, right, that's right. It's spoofing a Venus painting. Her unromantic expression made clear that sex and money would be exchanged. It shattered illusions, and it reveals the difference in social status according to race. So Manet's defenders praised the work for its innovative paint quality. Thick paint applied directly on the canvas. It was a flat, bright color, light areas separate from the dark, and few midtones. Gestural mark-making, flatness versus illusion of depth, and experiments in applying paint. Sexuality, politics, and consumerism. Sexuality is used to deliver a range of messages. This is Lynn Hirschman, Deep Contact, 1990. She was my professor when I went to grad school. She ran the film department at my school. And she was really forthright and like kind of thinking ahead of her time before the internet and what women would be like on the internet. Basically kind of like AI bots like they are coming out right now, like AI sex bots. In her computer video installation, Deep Contact, Lynn Hirschman looks at ways mass media uses sexuality in Western culture to attract attention. The guy dressed in sexually seductive clothing knocks at the touchscreen and asks the viewer to touch her to begin the performance. I love it. It's the 90s. That's what computers look like. By touching different parts, the viewer can create interactive fictions. Not all of the content of Deep Contact is sexual, but everything has been eroticized, including ideas about technology, self-awareness, and intimacy. The viewer of Deep Contact cannot be passive. If you do nothing, nothing happens. So the viewer is dislodged from the position of anonymous, distant voyeur. Oh, this woman. I'm sure you guys recognize this font, right? That's the Supreme. And she was the first one who created this font and this look and feel. And the Supreme, like, brand, like, totally ripped her off. And she thought it was funny. She doesn't care. Anyway, it's fascinating that it's popular again. But this is Barbara Kruger. And it deals with the shifting attitudes and conflicts that surround women's sexuality and reproduction in Western culture. She is amazing. I highly recommend going down a Barbara Kruger rabbit hole. If you like the Supreme brand, you'll love Barbara Kruger. Kruger uses relative pronouns that are gender neutral to imply that attitudes about sexuality and race are not fixed by nature. Kruger sees that these categories as changing entities under social, political, and religious influence. This is a photograph of a cross-dressing male, Catherine Opie, Justin Bond, USA, 1993. His attire and hair suggest both good girl and sexual potential. Catherine Opie's photographs of homosexuals, transsexuals, and dominatrixes reveal the complexities of gender and sexuality. Opie's photograph complicates the idea of the privileged male viewer. Justin Bond meets the viewer's gaze directly and with confidence, challenging any attempt by the viewer to see his behavior as pathological. Abstracted sexual imagery. Oh my, O'Keeffe. O'Keeffe. Gray Line with Lavender and Yellow, 1923. This alludes to the human body, but humans need not be represented. So Georgia O'Keeffe's Gray Line with Lavender and Yellow is an enlarged flower image. The structure resembles female genitalia. Feminists have seen in her work positive female-based imagery that glorifies and beautifies female sexuality. Torso of a Young Man by Konstantin Brancusi. Oh, Brancusi. Is an abstracted form of male sexuality. The simplified torso becomes an obvious phallic symbol. That could be on the quiz. Definitely, that question. It's a phallic symbol. Brancusi was influenced by the philosophy of the 11th century monk Milarepa, Romanian folk art, and African tribal art. He created works intended to capture the essence and universality of pure form. 1924. Polished brass. Louis Bourges, excuse me, Blind Man's Bluff is clearly sexual. Its appearance and name invites touch. The sculpture, oh my goodness, hold on. Oh. The sculpture is like a large phallus covered with round organic forms. It is. The piece suggests a fixation on sexual parts with attachment to an individual as a whole. The combination of male and female sexual imagery blurs genders and discrete categories in this work, Alice Neal, Pregnant Woman, 1971. Images of pregnancy, childbirth, and progeny are seen in many cultures. This figure is a Western image by Alice Neal. Her painting, Pregnant Woman, shows us the physical effects of pregnancy on one woman's body and emotions. Compare these two images. Right. I need not say anything. I think you get it. The Kidder figure is a pregnant seated female figure. She emphasized her large abdomen by resting her hands on it. Her face reflects contentment and joyous anticipation of the expected event. This is Mayan from Guatemala, 250 BCE. Wow. This Moshe ceramic vessel depicts childbirth in a straightforward manner, just as their depiction of sexual intercourse. The scene seems to be clinically illustrating an event rather than a moment of emotion, anticipation, or pain. This vessel shows the Moshe birthing position and technique. Wow. So art was also used for medicine to help people figure out, how it all works. Ceramic, 1250. The mother and child image is a familiar Christian icon. Mary is enthroned in a delicately carved architectural space crowned as the Queen of Heaven. She nurses the newborn Redeemer, holding him tenderly. The gentle, loving gaze of Mary upon her baby Jesus is calm, yet ominous because of Old Testament prophecies. Roger van der Weyden, Virgin and Child, 1432. Compare these two, mother and baby. The mother and nursing child is an image of a woman and her baby. The simple geometric form adds to the stability and the calm of the figure. Yeah, it does feel a lot more stable and like grounded, right? Grounded, seated. Representing a mother and her progeny in life, this effigy vessel may have ensured her potential to bear children in the afterlife. It was an effigy. Oh, that's it. All right, guys, that's it for this week. See you next week. Bye.